All right, strap in, everyone, because today we are diving deep, and I mean deep, into the success strategies of, well, uh, I think you all know who, Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah, I bet our listeners are already hooked.
And they should be, you know? We've got a whole pile of YouTube videos, transcripts, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, definitely not your average self-help guru.
Exactly. And, we're not here to talk politics. This is about the blueprint, the actual system that Trump himself says leads to success.
You know, what I find so fascinating going through all of this is Trump, he really hammers these like core principles over and over, and he really thinks anyone can use them no matter what they're aiming for.
Yeah, subtlety's never really been his thing.
Really?
But, one of the first things that just jumps out is his whole think big, win big mantra. He says it constantly.
Yeah.
But it's not like some empty slogan. He actually tries to break it down to show what it means to him.
He uses his own life as the
Yeah.
example, like with his real estate stuff.
Yeah, those buildings are huge.
He wasn't just like building another apartment building. No, he was picturing these like massive skyscrapers totally transforming the New York skyline.
He wanted landmarks.
Exactly. Yeah. He wanted landmarks, not just, buildings. And that like that huge vision, that willingness to really push boundaries, that's central to his think big idea.
And it's not just real estate, right? He had that same, audacious approach to his presidential campaign.
Oh, yeah, that was a wild one.
Going from, businessman to the Oval Office, that's a big jump.
Huge.
So it makes you think, right? What would happen if we actually applied this think big idea to our own goals? Like, what boundaries are we afraid of pushing?
That is a really good question. And it's like Trump wants us to think about that. He thinks most people, they just like think too small.
He's settled.
Yeah, they settle. They accept things the way they are, he's saying. Dream bigger. Picture what seems impossible and then figure out a way to make it real.
And, speaking of impossible dreams, another thing that's all over these sources is Trump's, crazy belief in the power of passion. He insists that you have to love what you do.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one for him.
He says passion is the fuel that gets you through the tough stuff, the fuel that gets you to, achieve amazing things.
It goes beyond just, finding a job you like. He talks about being like enthralled by his work and that energy, it's part of his his whole brand.
It's contagious. Almost.
Yeah, he's like, look, I'm having a blast and you can too. He thinks that kind of excitement, it draws people in.
Builds a loyal following.
Right. And ultimately leads to success.
I wonder, though, can anyone really be that pumped about everything they do? Or is it, partly for show? But even if it's a bit of an act, there's something to learn from it. How do we tap into that kind of passion, even if we aren't in our dream job right now? Like, what parts of our work actually bring us joy or challenge us in a good way?
Now, that's something worth thinking about.
It is. And I think it ties into another one of Trump's big ideas, taking action instead of procrastinating. He is all about doing, not just planning. In fact, he even has a word for it, slancio. It's Italian for momentum.
Yeah, he brings that word up a lot.
It's like he compares it to swimming against the current, right? If you aren't actively moving forward, you're getting pushed back. It's about that first step and then the next one and the next.
Building momentum towards your goal.
Exactly.
He really believes that action builds confidence.
It fuels passion, too.
Yeah. By doing things, even small things, we figure things out, we learn, and we build up that momentum to overcome that feeling of being stuck.
And we achieve our goals.
Exactly. But he's not saying just do anything recklessly. You got to be strategic.
Know what you're aiming for.
Right. And have a plan. But the focus is always on doing something, not just thinking about it. So what's one thing, even a tiny thing, that we can do today to get closer to our goals?
That's the question, right? And he wants us to ask that, all the time.
All the time. And what's interesting? He connects this whole action thing to another one of his ideas, turning no into yes.
Ah, yes. The art of the deal. He loves overcoming rejection, turning those roadblocks into, open doors.
Yeah, he talks about all those no's he got when he was starting out in real estate.
Countless no's.
But he didn't let it stop him. He saw rejection as a challenge.
The chance to prove him wrong.
Exactly. And this resilience, this refusal to just give up, it seems to be a big part of his whole approach to life.
He thinks most people quit too easily.
Way too easily.
They hear no and they stop.
When they could be pushing harder,
Yeah.
finding creative ways around it, turning that no into a big yes.
It makes you wonder, how many amazing chances do we miss just because we quit at the first hurdle? What could we achieve if we were I don't know, more persistent, more willing to, like, negotiate, be more determined.
That's a powerful question. And in his own way, that's the challenge Trump throws at us. It really is. And he ties this never giving up attitude right back to his idea that failure is just a stepping stone, not a stop sign.
He actually says his life is, like, 96% failures.
Yeah.
Wild, right?
That's a lot of failures. But he doesn't get bogged down by it. He focuses on what he learned from those times, and how they pushed him towards those wins.
Like he sees failure as, I don't know, part of the recipe or something.
And it's like an ingredient, yeah. He's even said you got to be able to take a hit and just keep going. That resilience, that bouncing back ability, that's what he thinks separates the winners from, well, everyone else.
And that other 4% of success, yeah, that speaks for itself. He loves to point to that portfolio of his. Over 400 companies.
It's impressive.
It really is. And he uses it to illustrate this whole people first, money follows thing he's always talking about.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea, you know. He's arguing that the key to building a successful business is focusing on helping people, solving problems, fulfilling needs.
He seems to genuinely believe that, like, if you build something valuable, something that truly helps people, the money will come.
Right. It's not about chasing profits. It's about creating solutions.
Hmm.
And, you know, he points to his own ventures as proof that this can work on a huge scale.
He really does.
So it gets you thinking, right? How can we apply that to what WE do? How can we better serve people? What problems can W solve? What value can WE create? Maybe that's the secret ingredient we've been missing.
Maybe it is. Now, switching gears a little bit, something else that pops up in these sources is how much emphasis Trump puts on presentation, image. He's very specific about how he presents himself to the world, everything from those suits he wears
Always tailored.
to those, like, luxurious properties. He thinks projecting an image of success and competence is critical, especially in business.
He talks about dressing well, driving nice cars,
Mm-hmm.
cultivating that aura of, like, sophistication.
Sending a message of power and confidence.
Exactly. And it's not just about appearances either.
Yeah.
He's big on, like, positive self-talk,
Yeah.
that whole believe in yourself thing.
Oh, yeah. He really believes in that.
He talks about cultivating a mindset of, like, empowerment, possibility, and it shows.
He said stuff like, you have to think anyway, so why not think big? And you have to believe you're going to succeed even before you actually do. It's like he truly believes our thoughts can shape reality.
Almost like he's advocating for a self-fulfilling prophecy. By, you know, picturing success, believing in ourselves and our abilities, we actually create the conditions for that success to happen.
And that unshakable self-belief paired with that, like, meticulous attention to image. It creates a powerful aura. It draws people in.
It's definitely part of his charisma.
It is. And speaking of drawing people in, another piece of the Trump success puzzle seems to be his focus on relationships. The guy's a master networker. He really gets the value of those strong connections.
He talks about surrounding himself with smart people, successful people, people who share his vision.
He thinks that having a strong support system, both personally and professionally, is, like, essential for getting through the rough patches and reaching your goals. He does. And he also stresses loyalty, trust. He values those relationships that are built on mutual respect and, like, a shared sense of purpose.
And he's not afraid to show his appreciation for the people who've had his back.
He really isn't. It's interesting to see how he blends this, like, people-first approach with his more competitive deal-making side.
It's a fascinating mix.
It is. He's definitely a tough negotiator, but he also knows how to build rapport, find that common ground.
It's a delicate balance, for sure. And, you know, speaking of delicate balances, one of the things that makes Trump so captivating is that he often seems to, I don't know, embrace conflicts, controversy. He's not afraid to shake things up or challenge the norm.
He seems to thrive on it. Remember when he said controversy creates attention and attention creates opportunity? He uses it to get publicity, stay in the headlines, build his brand.
And it's worked. He's a master at self-promotion. He's not afraid to use any tactic to stay in the spotlight. Whether it's a Twitter feud, a provocative statement, some crazy stunt, he knows how to get people talking.
He really does. Of course, this approach has its downsides. It can alienate people, create enemies, and lead to unnecessary drama. But there's no denying it's been effective for him.
It makes you wonder, though, could strategically embracing conflict, within ethical boundaries, of course, help us stand out from the crowd, help us achieve our own goals? It's a risky move, no doubt, but it's one Trump's clearly mastered.
Definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Now, we can't talk about Trump's success without acknowledging the role of luck. He seems to have a knack for being in the right place at the right time.
He does. But he also says that luck often comes from hard work and preparation. Remember that famous quote, "The harder I work, the luckier I get."
That's a good one.
It really is. Yeah. It reminds us that we can create our own luck by putting ourselves out there, taking chances, learning, and growing.
He seems to believe that the more prepared we are, the more opportunities we create for ourselves. And the more likely we are to stumble across those, like, lucky breaks that can change everything.
It's about being open to possibilities, being ready to seize the moment, and having the confidence to make the most of it.
Exactly. And that seems to be a key part of Trump's mindset. He's not passively waiting for good things to happen. He's actively making them happen.
So we've seen how he welcomes failure, focuses on image and self-belief, nurtures relationships, strategically uses conflict, and even makes his own luck. It's quite a combination.
It really is. And as we move into the final part of this exploration, it's worth thinking about how these seemingly different elements all come together to form his unique approach to achieving success.
It's really something, isn't it? How he manages to bring all these different pieces together. Bravado, strategy, showmanship, and, he really knows his stuff when it comes to business.
And one of the things that ties it all together, I think, is his belief in the power of negotiation. He sees it as a, like, essential skill, not just for business, but for life.
Oh, absolutely. He's practically famous for his deal making. And that book of his, The Art of the Deal, I mean, it's basically required reading for anyone who wants to, be an entrepreneur.
Right. He's not afraid to, like, push for what he wants, but he also understands that it's about finding solutions that work for everyone involved.
Mutually beneficial, as they say.
Exactly. He talks about being prepared, knowing what you're worth, and not being afraid to walk away from a deal that isn't good for you.
Knowing when to fold them.
He sees negotiation as a game, almost.
Yeah.
You have to be able to, like, read the other person, anticipate their moves, and always be one step ahead.
It makes you think, right? Where could we all improve our own negotiation skills? At work, in relationships, heck, even just bargaining for a better price at a yard sale. There's always room to get better at that.
Oh, for sure. And that's one of the big takeaways from Trump's approach, I think. He's always pushing us to think bigger, be more daring, and never settle for less than we deserve.
And he's not afraid to push the limits, which brings us back to that whole thing about, conflict and controversy. It's like he uses it as a tool, a way to shake things up and get people's attention.
He definitely doesn't shy away from a fight. And he often uses controversy to get publicity, stay in the headlines. It's all part of building the brand.
And it's worked. I mean, love him or hate him, everyone knows who Donald Trump is.
He's a household name, and he got there, at least in part, by using controversy to his advantage.
It's risky, for sure, but effective.
It really is. It does make you wonder, though, could we, strategically embrace conflict, ethically, of course, to help us stand out, achieve our goals? It's a question worth considering.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Trumpian approach to success, I'm just struck by how bold it all is. It's this mix of big ideas, taking action, strategic moves, and just unwavering self-belief.
It's a powerful combination. And, while not everyone's going to love everything about his style, there are definitely some valuable lessons we can take away from it. He's shown us that success often means taking chances, challenging the way things are usually done, and never giving up on those dreams.
We've seen how he stresses thinking big, loving what you do, actually doing things, not just planning, embracing rejection, learning from those failures, focusing on solutions, not problems, helping others, projecting confidence, building strong relationships, negotiating effectively, making your own luck, and even, strategically using conflict to your advantage.
It's a lot to take in, right?
It really is.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from this whole thing. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Trump knows how to get attention and how to get things done. By looking at how he does things, we can learn a lot about how success works, even if we decide to use those lessons in our own way.
Absolutely. So as we sign off on this deep dive, I'm left with this one question. Trump talks a lot about passion, about loving your work. But what if you're stuck in a job you hate? Could you use these principles, these strategies for thinking big and taking action to actually find a path to work that you do love?
That's a fantastic question to leave our listeners with. Maybe that's the ultimate challenge, right? To use these insights, these tools, to create a life that's not just successful, but fulfilling, meaningful, a life that's truly aligned with who you are.
We've just scratched the surface here. If you're fascinated by Trump and his whole approach, there's a ton more to explore. And remember, success always leaves clues. By looking at the strategies of people who've achieved what we want, we can unlock our own potential. we can achieve great things.
And never be afraid to turn a no into a yes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep thinking big and keep chasing those dreams.